ready?
Ready?
Cool. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking this time to join us for this lovely podcast, this episode. It's a special episode for me. And I think it'll be a super special episode as I think you just have a lot of things of value. So I will say that again. Thank you for being here. This is a super important interview for me. One, to give these stories that I'm already aware of out to the world, to provide a condensed version of my father. A lot of people want access to my father. Oh man, I want to talk to your dad, get some gems. So we're going to package this up in one little spot. Just keep going back to this video whenever you want to recreate those moments. Mm-hmm. So before we start, I'm going to start this conversation off with just asking, how are you?
I'm fine. Doing fine.
Okay, how was your day?
It was good. I was going back and forth all day long.
Okay, how's my mom?
She's fine.
She's good?
She's good. Mom's good.
Okay, mom's good. How's my brother?
Brother's good.
Okay.
Brother's good. Just left him before I came here.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, well, what I want to know primarily is, and I'm going to ask you this question twice. I'm going to ask you right now, then I'm going to ask you at the end of the interview. Mm-hmm. Who are you? And you can answer that as short or as long as you like, and then we'll get into the details of that.
Oh, I'm David Warner, son of Henry and Gladys Warner Jr., from Savannah, Georgia. Just a little Baptist guy who loved the Lord.
There we go. Okay. So, Savannah, Georgia, that's where you were born?
Born and raised.
Born and raised, okay. Take us back to your childhood. Take us back to just like a regular day in elementary, running around, you and Ronald, doing whatever you do. Describe that. What was that experience life, family life? Like, how was your living situation? So we can kind of shape who you are and how that shaped you.
Okay. Well, growing up in Savannah, growing up with mother and father until I was, I think, about 5. And my father decided he was leaving. Okay. So he met me at Bethlehem School, which is what do you call it? Not a daycare, but the
kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Yep.
And said, Dave, I'm hitting the road. I said, where you going? He said, I don't know, but I'm hitting the road. So I saw him and another pal. They just hit the road. I think it might have been 5, maybe 6 years old.
Okay.
And I didn't see him no more for years and years and years. So he left me and my mother in Savannah.
When he left, and you said you hadn't seen him for years and years after that, around when do you think the next time you saw him?
That might have been maybe 11 or 12.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. So
if that, it might have been a little earlier, but somewhere it seemed like I remember around.
So did you have any communication, phone calls?
Every blue moon, might have called every couple of years, might have said something. But that was it. Communication between my grandmother.
When you saw him again, where was that?
That was in New York.
Okay, so you went to go see him?
Yeah.
Okay, were you, either you by yourself?
It was my grandmother.
How'd you get to New York?
With my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother and I. Because when he left and he asked my great grandmother to stay with my mother and I to take care of us. So my great grandmother was between her daughter and my house, my mother's house. Okay. So she was back from east side, west side, and on the weekend she would take me back to my grandmother's house, and we stayed there on the weekend, and that's where we went to church and did everything from Friday evening to Sunday evening. Okay. And that's where we did our back and forth. Yeah.
So your grandmother took you to see
to New York.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I just need to figure out all the characters in this story. So my great grandmother,
your great grandmother,
took you to New York to see my grandfather.
Yes,
on the train.
On the train.
Okay, because I was like, I know y'all weren't in no plane.
No,
no
planes. So just straight up. Nancy Hank.
Okay, Nancy Hank was the name.
That's Amtrak today.
Okay,
but it was called Nancy Hank.
Okay, so we hopped on Nancy Hank and we went to New York City. Right. How was that experience? Was that your first time being in New York?
That was my first time. We had a good time.
Okay.
We I'm trying to think, where did we? He was living, if I'm not mistaken, on. Nope. No. I'm going a little further. He had a house, and we went and stayed there with him and a girlfriend.
Okay.
At the house, and she had a daughter, and we just had a good time. My grandmother had a friend in New York, so we went to visit her friend, and we just went around, and that was it, man.
Gotcha.
Just had a nice park there where he lived, not a big park. If I had people pushing boats, sailing boats around the park, it had all kind of stuff in it. But, it was nice.
So went to New York, saw my grandfather. What was that experience like for you? Like seeing your dad again? Was there an emotional component that you remember? Was it I'm just happy to see my dad? How do you remember?
It was like I'm really glad to see my dad again. Hadn't seen him. I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah.
But hadn't seen him in all those years.
Yeah.
And then, we had a good time.
Okay.
We had a good time. He was never home that much.
Gotcha.
He was always on the move.
Always on the move.
He was a gambler or whatever he did.
Gotcha.
And he'd come home and next thing you know, he's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone again.
Okay.
That's how he rolled.
So I don't want to get too far into the story. If I think about that experience that you had, and then I think about the experience that me and my brother had. You've been my father and around and present for 39 years of my life,
right?
44 years of my brother's life. What are some of the things that you saw that you wanted to do differently, if you can remember them from a child?
Well, I had a lot of experiences from not just my father, but from my uncles, aunts, and cousins.
Okay.
So the experience I had from my mother and my father, I said in myself, I did not want to relive those experiences once I had a family.
So you saw a contrast with like your uncles and things of that nature?
Yes.
Like so what were some of those experiences that you saw?
It was like a whole thing in a nutshell or ball or whatever. I saw my cousins go through separation, divorces, children over here, children over there. And I said to myself, I didn't want to have all that. That's a combination of what I saw my mother and father go through,
okay,
your grandmother and grandfather, and my cousins, and pretty much my uncles and aunts were pretty stable.
Okay.
The children was on the wild.
Got it.
The children, and I saw things that families do to each other that suppress relationships. One of the things is get too involved in other people's relationships.
Gotcha. Okay. Not minding the business that pays.
Right.
Okay.
So I learned that not that I'm pro at that yet.
Yeah.
I'm working that out.
Okay.
Right?
Still trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure that out. But I saw a lot of things that they shouldn't have done. I said, I'm not going to do that. To create a situation where the husband was doing too much for the wife, and the in-laws didn't like it.
Okay.
Or vice versa.
Got it.
So I say, look, man, let the husband do what he wants for his wife, let the wife do what she wants for her husband, and y'all stay out of it, and that kind of thing. Okay. And then I saw where in my own relationship, parent-wise, my mother loved her sisters so much that she did more for them in their household, or at least one of her sisters, than she did for her own husband and children, a child in her household.
That's problematic as well.
Very problematic. And then that's one of the things, I think that's one of the issues that created a separation between my mother and father. Because he would come home and she would be over there.
Got it. And he needed her home.
He needed her home with a dinner.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember her saying to him, I ate already.
That's the granny that everybody knows except me, because she made sure she fed her baby. So me and my brother were covered, but everybody else.
You never had that experience.
Everybody else got the wrath of my grandma or Aunt Gladys to everybody else.
You're right. Mm-hmm. But it was a good. I didn't have any regrets growing up because I grew up with my cousins. I grew up in my uncles and aunts' houses and my grandmother's house.
Okay.
So all of these things were, to me, were stability.
Got it.
I knew my mother and father didn't bring stability, but I could find stability when I was at my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Because I knew whatever I needed, they were taking care of.
Right there.
When I was at my aunt's house, I knew whatever I needed, it was taken care of. If I couldn't get it over here, I can get it over there.
Got it.
So that to me was stability.
Yeah.
And then I knew when my mother wasn't there, she might have been in Detroit or wherever she was when she left trying to find employment or something. It was fine because I was all right where I was.
Got it. So let's take it back from, we go to New York. Obviously, that's a trip. You still got to come back to Savannah.
Right.
So we're a teenager in this story. What is teenage David like? What is, teenage David into? Yeah, just walk us through that day-to-day of your experiences running around Savannah.
Well, one of the things that was good, I had the church I went to. We had a Boy Scout troop.
Okay.
And the Boy Scout troop, I can't think of the number, 257 or 248, whatever the.
248 was Jason's.
It was that was Jason?
Yes,
Might have been
257.
I can't think of exactly the number of that troop.
Yeah. We're not going back, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's cool.
Good. We had a Boy Scout troop, and we would, every week we had Boy Scout meetings. So that was something for me to do.
Got it. Okay.
As a growing up, because after, 12, 13 years old, whatever, something like that.
Yep.
Once you get Life Eagle, everybody go their separate ways.
Yeah.
Once you get in high school, everybody go their separate ways. So I had a good relationship with all the guys in my church, which is in my Boy Scout group. And I had friends. I was fortunate to have friends on the east side of town and the west side of town. So when I grew up, living on the east side with my grandmother and then going to school on the west side, I had friends that I went to elementary school with and right on through.
That probably also kept you out of some trouble too.
It did.
Yeah.
Because people on the east side knew me from being on the east side, and people on the west side knew that's where I went to school.
Yeah.
So yes, because there was rivalry.
Yeah.
In Savannah, you don't cross the east side line.
Yeah.
So that helped. Even though it helped to a certain degree.
You still have
you still got to know the dudes you got to leave alone and,
got it.
And don't get hooked up around them.
Okay. So as an extremely tall human being, imagine sports played a role in your life growing up. And my brother was probably 6'4" at like 14, 15 years old. How did the growth spurts work, and how did that transition into you playing sports, and what was the importance of sports to you growing up?
Well, I didn't really play basketball until I was in high school.
Okay.
Even though I was one of the tallest people in the school, I didn't have the tallest people's skills.
Got you. Okay.
Because there were guys that played years before me who were state champions.
Okay.
So when I got into high school, 10th, 11th grade, they were already beyond me. What I played was baseball or softball.
Yep.
And I loved to play softball, and I was pretty good playing softball. I could hit, and I could play the outfield.
Yep.
So that's what I don't even know if I told you all this.
Yeah, I know where the glove is.
You know the glove?
I know where the glove is. Yep.
So I was pretty good. I was a pretty good hitter in softball.
Okay.
Some of the guys that played, some of the football players and the basketball players, one guy in particular called him Fathom. I can't think of Fathom's name, but anyway, he didn't know I could play.
Yeah.
And we went out to for recreation one day, and we was playing softball.
Okay.
And when I got up to hit, you don't know what you're doing that ball. And when the ball went over his head and a few other people's heads,
like,
oh Lord,
he knows a little something. We're gonna pick him next time.
I didn't know you could do this.
Yeah, we're gonna pick him next time.
Right.
Okay.
So that was my thing in coming up.
Gotcha.
Softball, half rubber, and marbles.
Half rubber. What is half rubber?
Half rubber is a game that's played.
This is gonna be so ridiculous.
Mostly in Savannah. It's played with a half of a rubber ball.
Okay.
You know, I don't know whether they still make them, but they were balls about maybe the size of this cup,
Okay.
maybe a little bit smaller, round, of course, and you cut them in half.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
it hollow inside?
No,
Okay.
solid,
Okay.
solid all the way through, and like a ball, you throw like that. A half rubber ball, you throw like that.
Gotcha.
You throw it sideways.
Okay.
And you play it with a broomstick. Or a mop
Okay,
handle.
so kind of like when they used to do with the bottle caps.
What,
Same
just
baseball with a bottle cap, but you play with a
With a
broomstick because the bottle cap is smaller.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I think I've seen that on a movie somewhere.
Okay.
Maybe like Goodfellas or something like that. But anyway,
Maybe that one.
continue. Yeah.
Okay. And with a half rubber, if you knew how to throw it, you could be as a pitcher. Well, there 3 people played. Well, it could be 2 people on the side.
Okay.
But it was a pitcher, a hitter, and a catcher.
Okay.
And the ball, when you throw it, sidearm, it goes straight. Or if you knew how to throw it,
Yeah.
it could go. And then when it get almost to the batter, it can drop and shoo.
Nice little change up with
a nice change up.
with a half rubber. Okay.
And
What in the poor was happening for you guys to even come up with this game?
I don't know who came up with half
Yeah.
rubber. I don't know who invented the
That-
game. All I know is I played it. We played it in the street.
You liked it.
Right. We played it, with the house we went to on Gwinnett Street. We played it on the side street mostly because that's where it wasn't a lot of traffic
Gotcha.
coming down. If traffic came in those days, you just stop, let the car go by, and we get back out there, and it was points. If you hit the ball a certain distance, it was a point. You hit the ball over the pitcher's head a certain
another point.
distance, it's 2 points, and
I'm a Wikipedia half rubber later on and see if the world knows about that.
maybe not.
So we get into our teens. We're playing sports. We're in high school. So somewhere along the journey, you said, "Hey, there's a war going on outside, and I'm going to go join it." How was that process? Where were you? What age were you when you decided to join the military? And how was that decision? Because it could have not been a decision, correct?
Well, it was. Yes, it was. It could have been. Could not have been.
Okay,
but it was.
And explain that process because we don't know very much about drafts.
Well, the draft was going on, and I didn't want to be a part of it. So my cousin and I, Ronald, said, "Look, let's go up to the Navy Reserve and see what they're doing over there."
And so, why didn't you want to be a part of the draft?
Because I didn't want to go in the Army, and I knew if you got drafted,
Yeah.
that's the first place they're gonna send you.
Why didn't you want to go into the Army? And the reason why I'm saying this, even if I know some of these answers, don't nobody know nothing about the draft. Don't nobody know anything about Vietnam. And you have information previously that made your decision a decision. So that's what I want you to walk us through.
I didn't want to go to Vietnam. That was why I didn't want to get to the draft because
Okay.
most of the people that got drafted went to the Army
Yep.
or someplace
Yep.
or Marines, and then went straight to Vietnam.
Yep.
And they didn't come back.
Okay, and that's kind of where I want to get to because you had to have some sort of insight on why I don't want to go there.
Well, it's all over the news what was happening. I mean, they was telling you, hey, we're going to draft you and we're going to send you here.
Yep.
You out of high school, you out of college. If you ain't doing well, we're going to pull you out. We're going to send you to war.
Okay.
And they were sending brothers left to right,
Yeah.
to war.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't want to go there.
Gotcha.
But what we did was at 17, we wanted to leave home.
Okay.
And we were going to take the smart route
Right.
of leaving home.
Okay.
And we said, look, we're going to go in the Navy,
Okay.
Ron and I. So we went over to the Navy recruiting officer, and they said, okay, we can take you. I was 18, Ron was 17.
Okay.
He couldn't go. He had to get his parents' permit to go. I said, yippee, I'm gone.
I'm gone. Yeah, you figure that out.
I
I'm
don't
gone.
need no parents. I'm a grown man.
At 18.
18, right? I don't need no parents. I'm graduating from high school. When I get out of here, I'm gone. Well, you're not gonna leave me? Hey, you better get your mom and daddy to sign.
Figure it out.
So what we did, he turned 18. He wasn't gonna turn 18 until October 16th, was Ron's birthday. So we talked to some other friends. And we said, look, man, we going to the Navy, going to Navy Reserve. I think it's a good idea, and I think they got the buddy plan. So it was about 6 of us joined together.
Gotcha.
Went to the Navy, went to boot camp together, went up to Great Lakes, Chicago, Illinois, and it was cold.
I believe it. What time of year was this?
I think it was somewhere around August.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. It was pretty chilly.
Gotcha.
We had all our gear, pea coats and all that. Still wasn't enough.
Okay.
But we had a good time. Yep. We had a good time because we had the buddy system.
Okay.
And then we left there and went to Charleston, South Carolina for an extended boot camp.
Okay. So after boot camp, what happens? Do you go back home? Do you go on a plane and they send you somewhere?
After boot camp, I go to the hospital.
Okay. Explain that.
I got sick for something. I don't know what it was, but I got sick. And so everybody else went home, and I stayed in the hospital in Charleston.
How long were you in the hospital for?
Maybe 2 or 3 months.
Sheesh.
A few months.
You were sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And they couldn't find out what it was, and so finally they let me go.
Okay.
And then I went home.
They were just like, we're just going to file this. We can't figure it out. Case closed. Get him out of here.
That's how the military do you.
Gotcha.
It was something. I think they said it was rheumatic heart fever.
Okay.
And so they let me go.
Okay.
And I think had I known what I know now, I probably could have gotten disability way back then. But I didn't know, and so they let me go.
And they let you go.
They said, okay, we better get this joker out of here before he knows something.
Normally after boot camp, you go back home. And how long do you go back home for?
Well, we was in the reserve.
Okay. Gotcha.
We was in the reserve, so we go back home until we go to the next month's duty.
Okay.
So we had to go to duty every month.
Okay.
Once a month for a weekend.
Okay.
And we go to either Reserve Center, which was on Wheaton Street, right around the corner from where my grandmother lived, or we went to Charleston. In Charleston, you stayed the weekend, or in the summer, you stayed 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
And that's weekend.
So how do we get from the reserves to being full blown in Vietnam? How does that work?
They were heavily drafting, heavily getting people in that time. So what I did, I went to college, went to Savannah State, sang in the Glee Club, doing stuff, but I was never a great student. So I left after a couple of years and went to Detroit. So find me a job in Detroit.
Okay.
Went to Detroit. I wasn't there 2 weeks. My grandmother called me and said, David, you got a letter. What kind of letter? She said, it's a letter from the government.
Oh, Lord.
I said, well, look at it and see what they said and read it. She read it and said, we want you now on active duty.
Wow.
So
is this a request or is this a demand?
Oh, it's a demand.
Okay, because we won. It seems like you're asking a question. Okay.
No, the government don't do requests.
So they're like,
you have a choice. You can either come with us or you can go to Canada or you can do whatever disappearing act that you want to do.
Okay.
So I said, okay. I went back to Savannah, got my letter, and they told me where to go. I think I had to go to San Diego, I think. And they flew me to San Diego.
Okay.
And a whole lot of us were out there, and then they gave us our duty.
Okay.
And my duty was Vietnam. So, oh Lord, why you want to do me like this?
That's heavy. How did you feel when you found that out? When it was like, all right, here's the news.
It was kind of, ooh, man, I wasn't expecting this.
This happened quick.
This happened real quick. So they didn't send me straight to Vietnam. They sent me to North Carolina.
Okay.
For survival training. 2 weeks in survival training.
Okay.
So we go back to North Carolina. No, I'm sorry, Virginia. Norfolk, Virginia. And they sent us in the wood. They trained us for a few days. No, it was in training for a week. Weapons, other survival. And then they sent us out in the woods for survival.
Okay.
And they gave us, it was 6 of us in a group.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot of other people.
Yeah,
but
I'm
it was
just
6 of us
laughing
in
because
our
I
group.
feel like whatever you're about to say is absolutely crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
They say, look, this is what you're gonna have to survive on for the next 3 or 4 days. I think it was. And I said, what we got? You got a raw chicken,
So like a whole chicken?
whole chicken,
Okay.
whole raw
Does
chicken.
everybody have it, or does the 6
No,
of y'all have
the
it?
6 of us. No, this we got to split this chicken up between
Okay.
the 6 of us. They gave us a couple of cans of something,
Okay.
in a candy of your choice. So I chose. It was what's those round things? Candies. I can't think of what the name of, but I chose one of those hard candies. And I say, well, I think if I need it, I think this would be what I can
Yeah.
survive on. So we get out there, day 1, go by day 2, and we doing all this training and everything. And I think it was the second day. We had this chicken. We said, we better do something with this chicken. And we tried to do something with the chicken. It was too late. The chicken had spoiled.
Oh, I was just about to say, so like there's no like refrigeration. You
No,
just have the chicken.
we
Gotcha. That
didn't
was
have a backpack
terrible,
or refrigeration.
Terrible idea. You guys should have cooked that chicken
Day one.
Okay.
We should have cooked the chicken day 1,
Yeah.
but we wanted to do day 2.
Y'all was just walking around with a raw chicken.
raw chicken.
Oh man, that was a setup. You could have had old chicken for at least another day and a half after it was cooked.
Exactly.
Oh man.
But they didn't give us the menu. The
so
schedule of what to
fair
do with
enough.
chicken.
Okay, so no chicken. So now we're just down to candy.
Now we're down to candy.
Okay.
And so I had, I think I might have eaten, like a 8-pack roll of candy. Butterscotch. That's
Gotcha.
what I
Okay.
had. And that's why I like butterscotch now to a certain degree.
It saved your life.
It saved my life. And I had a butterscotch, not in the morning, but I had one like in the middle of the day. And then another one for the next day or 2, whatever.
Okay.
It wasn't, I think it was like 4 days out there in the woods.
Gotcha. And so, are there like activities you guys have to do, or just like go here and sit and then come back?
No, we're trying to find our way through the woods from one point to the next point, and then survive and sleep and drink.
Okay,
And,
so you have actual objectives that you guys have.
yeah,
to
we
do.
had an objective,
Okay.
and then we trying to avoid the enemies.
Okay.
Because it was like a wartime situation.
Got it.
Where we trying to avoid them and survive and that kind of stuff. It's almost like if you're a pilot and you they shoot your plane down
Gotcha.
and you're trying to survive
Get back from where you are.
Right.
Got
So
it.
we did all that and trying to find water. And the funniest thing to me was wanting water. Had your canteen and you hear something running and you can't see it. But you're thirsty.
Yeah.
So you just take your canteen, dip it down in there, and hope the water's clean. So
You made it.
we made it.
You
We're
made
still
it.
here.
Okay. So, survival training. You survive.
I survived.
Okay, and so where from?
Yeah, I survived,
From. So you survived. Everybody survived.
Everybody survived. It was rough for a lot because they put you through interrogation as if you were caught by the enemy.
Did you tell?
No, I didn't tell.
Okay. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
All right, just making sure.
I gave my name, rank, and serial number, and they try to put you in a little box where it was rough.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stand the box.
Okay.
And it was.
Yeah.
They let me go after they found out I couldn't stand the box. They said,
Gotcha.
okay, you can go on
You
over
can
there.
go. Gotcha. Okay, so you you said Norfolk, Virginia?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, so you leave Norfolk, Virginia. Where do you go from there?
I go to San Bernardino,
Okay.
catch a plane, go to Vietnam.
So you touch down in Vietnam, get off the plane, and it's like, wow, it's about to go down.
Yep.
What are your thoughts or expectations that you had for yourself, or even this experience that you're about to embark on?
Scary.
Okay.
Because you don't know what to expect. I think training, the survival training,
Yep.
gave me at least expectations that didn't have to be, but there were expectations to save your life.
Got it.
Because when I got to Vietnam, I was suspicious of everything.
Okay.
Anything that looked like a Vietnamese,
Yeah.
which everything was Vietnamese. It's like, oh. I went to sick bay when I had to go to, I think I was there for the first day or two, and everybody had to go get a physical or checkup or whatever.
Yep.
And I sat there on the bench, and I had to go to the bathroom. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I had to go real bad. And there was a Vietnamese lady coming out the bathroom who had cleaned the bathroom.
Yep.
And our survival training told us that Vietnamese set traps in bathrooms and any kind of little things. And I'm saying to myself, now, if I go to this bathroom and lift this lid or sit on this toilet, I could be blown to smithereens.
Man. So what'd you do?
I went to the bathroom.
Okay.
But I looked, and I eased everything. And I was shaking, really.
Man.
But I did lift the lid, use the bathroom. I don't even think I flushed the toilet. Probably didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
And I came on out.
Yeah. Okay. So
I made it through that one.
we make that. So you get to Vietnam. What's the process of finding your assignment?
They sent us to the Navy headquarters, which is the White Elephant,
Okay.
where all the generals and chiefs of staff and command posts is, which is downtown Da Nang.
Okay.
To us, it was across the river. It's a big white building, and they call it the White Elephant. And so we went in the White Elephant, and we had us all on the wall. And the guy came out, James Forsey, and he said, I need to find out who can type and how many words you can type. So this was giving us all our assignments.
Yep.
And so he said, he asked all the guys went down the road, how many words can you type per minute? And guys were 60 words, 80 words, 40 words, and he got to me, et cetera. And he said, how many words can you type? I said, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I might be able to do 20, 25 words a minute. And that's it. He said, okay, come with me. And he took me in the office. And that's where I worked.
So why
on the typewriter.
why did he select you out of all of the shining star typists that were having these high words per minute?
I guess he thought I was honest, and the job that you had to do, you didn't have to do no 80 words.
Yeah.
Only thing you had to do was make sure it was a 1 line or 2 lines, maybe 10 lines. You just had to type the cargo on the line and put how many of the cargo.
Gotcha.
So it wouldn't have, you had to,
Yeah.
you had to do all that. You just had to doop, 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 doop. And if I did 20 minutes, 20 words, I'm good.
I'm good.
So
how would you? So not how. What was your responsibility? So you're typing and like you stating you're putting the cargo on. So what were you responsible for?
making sure that cargo that came off the big ships, the cargo ships, got downloaded to the smaller ships that would go in various parts of Vietnam.
Got it.
In North Vietnam.
Okay, and these were like, what was this, like ammo, food?
It could have been anything.
Okay.
Any and everything.
Okay.
Food, vehicles, ammo, like I said, vehicles again, all kind of stuff.
And how long were you there total time?
18 months.
Okay. 18 months.
A year and a half.
Year and a half in Vietnam, then head back to Savannah?
Yep.
Gotcha. So when you got back to Savannah, how did you feel? And also, because we hear a lot about, specifically Vietnam, people coming back from war and not getting the best reception from civilians. How was that experience? Both just like, how was your experience as a human? Like David Warner, how did you feel being back, being stateside? And then also, how did you feel in terms of your experience with regular, everyday citizens?
Well, I was fine. Everybody treated me fine. I mean, I didn't have any backlash of, you a baby killer and all that stuff. A lot of guys that I know in groups I was in, they had that experience.
Yeah.
But I had my experience was welcome to the family, welcome from my family, welcome from friends who knew where I was, and so it was good. Okay. I didn't have any rough experience coming back from Vietnam.
Gotcha. So you get back home. What's next? Where do you go from there?
I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
What kind of living I'm gonna make and stuff. So I go back to Detroit.
Okay.
and trying to figure out what to do in Detroit. And so it wasn't easy. I went to work with my uncle's company that he used to work for. And when I got up there, they had just gone on strike.
Okay.
And then he was in the outs.
Okay.
And they were trying to do stuff to him because he crossed the picket line.
Got it.
You don't do that.
Explain crossing the picket line. Nobody from my generation has ever gone on strike before. Like they like kind of have, but like maybe like digitally on Instagram or something. So like, what is that? What is crossing the picket line? Explain that.
Well, if you in recent days they had the actors strike.
Yep.
And so all the actors stopped working. And where he worked at Wolf Packing Company, Wolf Distributing Company, all the drivers stopped driving.
Okay.
And when you cross the picket line, that means you get non-union drivers to drive.
Gotcha.
That you get non-union actors to act.
Okay.
But when that's crossing the picket line,
Gotcha.
and when you cross the picket line, you put your life in jeopardy.
Gotcha. Because people are on strike.
Right.
No problem with that. Makes
He
sense.
was a manager,
Yeah.
so he had to do his job.
Yeah.
And so even managers, when they do their job, they accuse them of crossing the picket line.
Gotcha. Okay. So you out of work there, or that's not even a viable option. Where
I went to work
Okay.
for a week and a half.
Week and a half. Okay. Week and a half. And then where do we go from there?
I found a job at Chrysler.
Okay. Is this before or after your run-ins with the mob? You didn't think I was gonna bring that up, did you?
The mob.
Your union mafia voting story?
Oh, I'm not sure whether it was the mob.
Okay.
It might have been the union mob.
Okay. Got you.
But we had elections, and they wanted to get their side in power.
Okay.
At that time, it was this is the early 70s.
Okay.
And there was still, even though there was integration in Detroit, all over the north, there was still segregation.
Yep.
Because the unions were basically run by white folks.
Okay.
And the black folks that were in it were just subservient of the union.
Okay.
So we go to union meeting, and they say, Dave, we're going to make you the president of voting.
Okay.
I said, what? I said, yeah, we're going to vote you in. I said, man, I don't know nothing about no voting. I said, you will learn.
Okay.
So
Was this an option, or is this like the letter from the government?
no, it was a letter from the brothers.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
a
from the
letter that
brothers.
said, look, we're going to put you in.
And this is what's happening.
And this what's going to go down.
Okay. And so this was at Chrysler?
At Chrysler.
Okay.
So they voted me in.
Got you. Okay. So
And I was the president of elections.
of elections.
So anytime there was an election that went on, I was there.
You were there.
I didn't have to go to work. If we had a recount, if we had anything to do with election, I'm gone.
Because you got to take care of it. You're the president.
And I'm getting paid.
I like that. Okay. So you talked about segregation and integration. I think this is super interesting, and I know we're going back in the timeline. So I think you were somewhere between like 16 and 18 when, I guess, integration happened.
Yeah.
So
15, 16, something like
okay,
that.
so explain
Yes,
a little bit about that world from a perspective of I've lived my whole life in a segregated world, and then now we're integrating. In younger people's minds, it's like an off and on switch. Like, okay, cool, we were doing this before, and now we're not. But that's obviously not the case. Tell me a little bit about your experience with segregation, integration. First time that you went to a whites only establishment. Just what was the experience like from a teenager and at a time in your life where you're probably the most rebellious and radical?
Well, I was never that rebellious or radical because growing up in the South in Savannah and knowing the stories, trees were not an option.
Got it.
When I say trees are not an option,
You're not hanging.
lynching
Yes.
was very prevalent in the South.
Okay.
And so it was almost like a thing, you knew your place, even though you were going to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because we had privileges in our own communities.
Yeah.
We had grocery stores. We had barbershops. I didn't need to go out of my community
Yeah.
to survive.
Okay.
But in order to get certain jobs,
Yeah.
you had to go out of your community.
Right.
If you wanted to work for one of the sugar refinery or Union Bag or that kind of stuff, one of the big plants,
Okay.
then you had to go across the other side to get a job. But in Savannah, everybody was pretty, hey, you know who you are, and you know what you're going to do,
Yeah.
and what you're not going to do.
Yep.
You knew when you got on the bus, you went to the back. You knew there was no cabs but Milton Cabs and another cab. And my grandfather worked for Milton Cab. So if you wanted a cab, that's the cab you wanted.
Yeah.
Certain parts of town you didn't go into.
Yep.
There's still some parts of Savannah I've never been into. And when I go into those parts,
Yeah.
even though it's been an integrated part,
Yeah.
I'm still a little,
Yeah.
hey, I ain't never been over here and never
Yeah,
went over
and
there.
that's,
Ain't got no sense, no reason to go over there.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the reasons why I say I'll never move back to Savannah.
Yeah.
Because I have the memories of segregation. When I graduated from high school, it was still segregated in 1965. Segregation, somebody asked me about that today. Segregation didn't end until, in Savannah,
Yeah.
until 67 or 68.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. In Baxley, it was in 70 before they integrated. That's when your mother went to school, and she was 7 years after me,
Yeah.
and that's when they integrated.
Wow. That's crazy.
So it was almost like June 10th,
Yeah.
where Lincoln signed that decorate the Emancipation Proclamation,
Yeah.
but they didn't hear about it until a year, 2 years later.
Exactly.
We still
Yeah,
we don't have
just
nothing.
doing we don't have internet. No one's sitting there like, wait a minute. I saw this meme today, and we should be free, or we should be. You get the news when you get the
You
news.
get the news when you get the news, and sometimes you never got the news.
Got you.
There are certain places they still ain't got the news.
Yep.
So you just keep it moving. But in Savannah, see, we had 3 movie theaters:
Okay.
the Star, the Dunbar, and the East Side.
Okay.
So we had choices of going to movies.
Yeah.
We had baseball fields. We had churches. We had our own private, groups. Like I said, Boy Scouts
Yeah.
or Girl Scouts or whatever. So we were I was comfortable,
Self-sustained.
self-sustaining,
Gotcha.
even in that environment. But what in segregation, I remember my mother going downtown, or my grandmother going downtown to buy clothes. They couldn't try on the clothes.
So, and this is like just my brain going to. So, let's say they couldn't try the clothes on. What's the return policy for a black person then?
He ain't got no return policy. You better get close and get you a good seamstress.
Gotcha, because you're not bringing that back.
You're
to
not
the store.
don't
Okay.
make it too tight.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Nah,
So it's probably better to get bigger.
It's probably better to get bigger.
Okay.
And these things are like, I didn't have that problem because they didn't do that to, they pretty much saw what size, young boys were you husky or were
Yeah.
you slender or whatever, and they kind of bought to that size.
Yeah.
And that made it a whole lot better. But if you were a young lady or a woman,
Yeah.
you weren't trying on no clothes.
Got it. Okay.
Not in those downtown Broughton Street clothes.
Got it. Okay. So we went back a little bit, and so let's move forward to after the war. After Vietnam, we're in Detroit. How long did you live in Detroit before you came back to Savannah?
4 years.
Okay. And so who primarily lived in Detroit that was a home base for you?
My Aunt Corley
Okay.
and her husband, Uncle Terrell,
Okay.
and Uncle Henry and his wife Ernestine.
Gotcha.
So, but I stayed with Aunt Corley,
Okay.
and I stayed with her until I found a place of my own. And Harold and I had rented a house together, and then I moved in with another friend.
Gotcha. Okay. So you moved back to Savannah after Detroit?
After Detroit,
And what made you move back to Savannah?
cold,
Okay.
snow, snow getting in your boots and your shoes and stuff. It's just cold.
Yeah.
It's just cold.
Cold. Okay. So you get to Savannah, and I guess this is the part of the episode where we introduce the next character, my mother.
Okay.
How'd you meet my mom? When did you meet my mom? Where did you meet my mom? Walk us through that.
I went back to Savannah. I went back to Savannah State, and I said, "Well, let me see if I can try education again." So I went back, and one of the things that was familiar with me was the Glee Club or the choir, or the Glee Club, really. So I went down to join the Glee Club, and when I got down there, I found out that the Glee Club and the choir had merged.
Okay.
I said, "Oh man, I don't sing no choir.
Yeah.
The only way I could sing in the Glee Club was to sing in the choir. Sing in the choir.
Why didn't you want to sing in the choir?
Because I like to sing with men. I didn't like to sing women. Women, to me, just had too much stuff going on.
Gotcha.
And guys, even though we had things, we sang and we was on the point. You know, when we sang in the Glee Club, when the first time, my first tour of Savannah State, before I went to Vietnam, we were like, boom, boom. We traveled all over the country. We sang. And we had a good time. So, and then another guy had the choir, and I just didn't like the choir. So when I went back and I found out I had to do choir and Glee Club, I said, okay, I'll join, because I like, you know, that was going to be the option.
Yeah.
And then in the choir was your mother and her sisters. So we, I met them, we talked and blah blah blah, and next thing you know, we started dating. And I said, look, okay, I got to find something else. So Ronald, my whiz kid cousin, he started a cosmetic company, or he was going to start a cosmetic company in Miami. So I said, look, man, you go down there. He said, when I get it, I'll get down there. I'll get us a place to stay, and I'll get the company going. You come down. Bet. So went down there. He found somebody, moved in with them, and me and Greg, his nephew, we went to Miami. And one thing led to another. That didn't work for long. The company didn't last. He bought a house. That didn't last. And so we, Clarice came down, and so we found a place in Cutler Ridge.
Okay.
And then we found a place on 108th Avenue.
108th Avenue. So before we get there, what were you doing for work in Miami?
A whole lot of things. I started off selling cars. I sold I started off selling a exercise machine called a Dynagym.
Okay.
And the Dynagym was the forerunner to the what's that Chuck Norris machine?
I know what you're talking
The
about.
Total Fitness.
Okay.
It was the forerunner.
Was it the one that like you could do you sit on it? Was it black and blue?
It was similar to the Total Gym, but it didn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that you came across. It had to come across your head, and you pull up from your feet. Had the seat on it, but it was a lot of the Total Gym stuff it didn't have on it.
Right.
So, but it was very, very interesting. Didn't make no money.
Okay.
But I was very good at persuasion. And the owner of the company, my car broke down, and he said, "Look, you can use my car."
Okay.
And so he let me use one of his cars.
Okay.
And he bought a new one.
That's very kind of him.
Very kind.
Very rich of him as well.
Very rich.
Yeah.
He was from Australia.
Okay.
Too. And so we moved along, and your mother got a job at the at the school board, and I started selling cars.
Okay.
And I sold Chryslers.
Okay.
So Chryslers, then I sold Chevrolets.
Got it.
At Dayland Chevy.
Okay.
So did that, got well, and I went into some other crazy stuff with a multi-level company, network marketing company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And so at some point you decided to get into your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
This part is super important to me, largely because this is, I believe, the blueprint to who I am. The blueprint to me seeing someone start with an idea. I tell people all the time, oh, you want to get into entrepreneurship? Who have you seen be an entrepreneur. It sounds good. It sounds like I open a business today and customers galore tomorrow and everything lives happily ever after. But I was able to see, you know, the handwritten or the hand-drawn flyers that my mother drew. They get photocopied and you guys hit the streets to pass those out. So tell us about that journey, how you started the journey, what made you, like, what did you see to say, hey, I can do this? Well, and tell us also what this is.
The Lawn Pro. Okay. I've always wanted to be in business for myself. I mean, from years early, even in high school. That's what I wanted when I went to college. I went to school in business, but I never had the actual thing to do.
Yeah,
the business to get into. So when I got to Miami after long years and years of trial and tribulation, a friend of mine I was selling insurance, and he was selling insurance, and he started cutting lawns. And I said, Julius, what you doing? He said, oh, Dave, I'm cutting me a few lawns. Said, cutting lawns? Come on, man, we sell insurance, we doing all right. I said, no, man, these lawns are good. I said, good? How lawns can be good, man? You out there working, sweating in that hot sun? He said, I'm telling you. So I said, oh, man. So I thought about it. And what I did was I started putting some math to lawns, and which I think everybody should do. You know, you got to count the cost. So I said, look, man, I said, what you making on a lawn, Julius? He said, anywhere between $35, $45, sometimes $50 a lawn. I said, oh, yeah? And how many you do a day? He said, you know, by myself, I might be able to do 3 or 4, sometimes 5. I said, that's not bad. So he, you know, at that time, I said 35, 45 times 5 a day, times 5 or 6 days. That's not bad, you know. So I said, okay, I did some more math, saw what it was. Said, man, it's not bad. So I said, I think I might need to do this. And so I said, okay, first thing I need to do is get some equipment. I need to get some transportation, and I need to get some money to get started. So I went to your mother and told her what I wanted to do. She said, ooh, I don't know about that. You don't know how to cut no lawn. You can't even cut our lawn. She gonna go out there cutting somebody else's lawn. I said, well, I think I might be able to do it. So I said, she had a Camaro. I forgot the year of the Camaro, gray Camaro. So she said, okay, you can use my Camaro. And I went to a friend, and we worked on some stuff, and I got a loan. I think the loan was like $2,700. And I used that money to buy a $400 trailer, black trailer. I put a hitch on the Camaro.
That's so ridiculous.
And the Camaro had a louver on the back, so it was covered, so you couldn't see in it, in the back, rather. And so I took the money, and I went to John Deere, and I said, look, I want to start a lawn business. And I need to know, can I get some credit? What can I get? And so all of that, I got a weed eater, a hand blower, an edger, and a lawnmower. And they got it on credit. I don't know how my credit got to be able to buy that stuff. But I got it. I took it home. I bought me a couple of rakes and other little things that I needed with the money. And I was out there one day. I didn't know how to use the edger, weed eater. I know how to turn on the blower and blow it, but I did not know how to drive that lawnmower. And I was home one day, and some friends of mine came by. No, I'm starting back up. John Hankerson, his wife worked with Clarice, your mother, and he was in the lawn business. And John used to be the business manager of Morris Brown University. And he left Morris Brown as the business manager and came back to Miami and took over his father's lawn business. And I said, I saw something unique in what he was doing for a few years, and he built that thing up, man. And his wife, Barbara, never worked during the summers. my wife, your mother worked every summer. I said,
Something's not right.
Something's not right. How he going, what is he doing?
Yeah.
So I went to John after I got the idea about being in the lawn. I said, John, I'm thinking about getting in the lawn business. Is it possible I can go out with you for a day or two just to see what it's all about? He said, sure, Dave. So he let me go out the first day, and I was mostly raking. And that night, I started to change my mind because the work looked easy. Ooh, I was painting in places I never knew I was going to paint.
And that's that entry level landscaping work. A lot of bagging, a lot of mulching, a lot of bring this from here to there. I say this because I know this. I've done this at a very early age. My first job was working for this young man. I will say this though, he paid children well. But that when you're not on that tractor, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of physical work. So anyway, back to your story.
So I worked that day, and John called me and said, Dave, I'm not going to need you the next day. I said, oh, Lord, thank you. Because I didn't want to go back in because I was about to say, no, this ain't going to be for me. So I think that Monday or Tuesday, he said, you can come back out with me again. I went back out. And that was it. So I had that experience. And so I got my equipment. And when I got my equipment, John and Candyman came by the house the next day for some reason. I think I told them I had it. And they said, look, we coming by. And they came by. And they saw how I drove that tractor. When I got on the tractor raised up. So, no, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, I almost killed myself, threw myself off the tractor. And so they showed me how to use the edger, how to use the blower, how to use the weed eater, how to do stuff. I said, Clarice, print me up some flyers. Warner's Lawn Service. Went and got some business cards printed up, printed them up, cut them on a sheet of paper. It was 4 on a sheet. Print them things up, and I started knocking on doors, passing out flyers. Got one customer, got another customer, and eventually I had a few customers so I could sustain myself during the week. And then as Jason got older, he came out and he was driving the tractor. You got older, you came out, and all of us was working. And then John Hankerson, we was constantly in communication together with John, and John said, told me, David, I got something I want to talk to you about. I said, what, man? He said, I want to make you an offer. What kind of offer? He said, I want to sell you Lawn Pro. I said, huh? I said, John, I can't buy your business. I mean, this man's making hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s a year cutting lawns. I said, I don't have the money to do it, John. He said, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. I said, I'm listening. He said, look, all you got to do, I'm going to let you I'm going to give you the business. And you just pay me. I'm gonna tell you what you got to pay me every month, and you just pay me monthly out of the proceeds of the business. I said, come on, John. I said, what's the down payment? You ain't got to pay me nothing. No down payment, and I'm gonna pay you out the proceeds of the business. And then my truck, I had a truck. That truck went down, and I said, John, I ain't got no truck. You can use my truck. I said, Lord God, you know you good. So, all these things just fell into place.
So, and just to run this deal down. So, I'm going to purchase your business.
Right.
But by purchasing your business, I don't have to have any upfront money.
Right.
What do you receive? You receive trailer, equipment, accounts? Like, what do you receive?
I receive everything. Trailer, again, as you said, equipment, accounts, and the crew.
Okay.
The trained crew that knows what to do more than what I know to do.
Gotcha. So these places are not places. This all of these items and, like I said, accounts. That's really the meat and potato.
Right.
He wants nothing up front. And you pay him from the profits of the company that's already profitable.
Yes.
Man, that's a pretty good deal.
I couldn't find a better deal,
That's a pretty good deal. So after, I'm guessing you guys figured out a dollar amount that would be like the final payment. Is there like royalties that you have to pay over X amount of time?
No. John was an accountant. because as I said, he was the businessman manager for Morris Brown.
Correct.
So he said, this is what he told me. He said, look, Dave, I done made all I need to make out of Lawn Pro. And I'm taking the money that I've already made, and I'm going to buy me another business. And I'm going to run that, which he did.
Yep.
Which was like a partial post type business.
Okay.
It was something like that, but it was a similar type of business where they mail stuff and ship packages and that kind of stuff, but he had another name because he didn't franchise.
Got it.
Because he knew he studied and reviewed and got all the information, and he just went into it and did it. And he said, look, because I've already made money out of Lawn Pro, all you got to do is pay me back. And I think he sold me the business for $25,000. And I paid him out of the business $400 and something a month, zero interest.
Man.
So I said, Lord, you can't be, this is what you call a blessing. And that's why I say all things come together for the good to those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. If you love him and he calls you, you're going to be blessed.
And that's what we were talking about the other day on the phone. And I think that's so important to be able to, if you can, speak to that, because nothing's going to happen if you don't already have things going.
Right.
So you had already started this process. How do you, and I was even talking about down to proposing to my mom without a ring. But there's action behind all of these things that you're doing, and there's faith. How, if you can, kind of expand on that, just that thought process of having an idea, believing in that idea, and being faithful with your actions and reaping the benefits.
Well, it's all about coming up with a plan or an idea. Because a lot of times you might not have a plan.
Gotcha.
But you have an idea. And if you can go with the idea, the plan will come.
Correct.
But you got to have faith. I guess my childhood, growing up in Second Island Baptist Church, and still to the day, the pastor of that church, his son and I are still best friends. And this was almost 70 years ago. We go back from little 3, 4, 5-year-old kids growing up in that church. Because that's the only church I knew. That's the only church he knew. His father was the pastor. My grandmother was the secretary of the church. My grandfather was a deacon in the church. So I had that background, but I really never knew how to spiritually put it together until later in life. And that's one of the things that I always seeked out. How do I manifest material things from a spiritual situation? So I worked at those things and tried to figure out those things. And then God brought those things to me, and he says, very simple, all things do work together.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, they do? Yes, they do work together. But you got to, first of all, you got to have a plan, and you got to work the plan.
Yeah.
See, so go back to John Hankerson. When John Hankerson saw that I was continuously in the lawn business, and I was working it. I mean, I wasn't doing what he was doing, but I was. Hey, man, you still cutting lawn? Yeah, I'm still. Dave, I got a proposition for you. So he brought the proposition. You have to believe that God will supply all of your needs.
Yes, sir.
And he will. Going back to the ring, you just threw out the ring with your mother. I didn't have no ring. When I met your mother, I didn't have no money.
Yeah.
When I had a car.
And she didn't have a car.
She didn't have a car.
Yeah.
She had a mother's car when they were doing student teaching. But you have to believe, and you have to believe, and you have to believe. There's a whole lot of stuff that I'd gone through in my life that I never had any inkling that it would happen. I mean, the first house we bought, we couldn't qualify for that house, but God qualified us for that first $45,000 house.
Wait a minute.
4 bedrooms.
Wait a minute.
2 baths.
The house that I was raised cost $45,000.
$45,000.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's like, it's crazy and it's like scary because it's also like, why y'all? I mean, I guess like money's different there, but it's like, why was there ever any refinancing in this home?
Because of changes, because of things happening.
Yeah.
Life happening.
Yeah, and you're in the house
and when life happens, you get in situations where you got to do something.
Yeah, because we're here.
Or you'll be out.
Yeah, we're here.
So we had to do this, we had to do that, and it was largely because of me. She was stable.
Yeah.
Because she had her job right on through.
Yeah.
I had my job, I'm like,
yeah. Figuring it out. Yeah,
trying to
flowing.
figure it out,
Yeah, ebbs and flows. Gotcha.
So, and because of her stability, that kept us and still keeping us.
Yeah.
Until I could get some stability years later.
Gotcha.
On a full-time stability. I mean, LonPro brought us great stability.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't.
One thing that I want to touch on that I think will be super valuable is the relationship between you and my mother. How long have you been married?
47 years.
47 years. That is a substantial amount of time.
Yes, it is.
I think we have a huge problem in our culture / these times in picking. I think people are terrible pickers. And I think as men, and that's all I can do is hold us to a level of responsibility. We're not responsible with our women and with our children. That ultimately leads to the demise of a family. What are some of the things that you saw in my mother that made you say, this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with?
It's a good question because, we just met in college and I didn't really know a lot about her because I had not known her other than through the choir in the Glee Club. But I just knew she was, to me, a very attractive young lady. She was a very nice young lady. She wasn't wild and all out there and boisterous and that kind of stuff. She was just a mild person, and she was studying to be somebody, which is get an education. And she was going to be a teacher one day. Now I didn't know how all that was going to play in, because my thing was I'm going for what I'm going for. I didn't even know she was going to come along for the ride. Until, we started talking and going out, and then all of a sudden I fell in love, and I said, asked her, would she marry me? She said, yes. And that was that.
What are some keys to success to keeping a marriage, but also a family and a household? Because you can be married, but not necessarily have a family and a household, even if you're all living in the same household.
Well, first of all, you have to want to. You have to want.
And also answer that with your prerequisites of family education and how did where you came from get you to where you are?
Once I found the person, because I never thought I was going to be getting married.
Okay.
But once I found the person, and I knew before that, really, if I got married, I wanted to stay married.
Okay.
Because I'd seen marriages that stayed together for a long time, but I've also saw marriages just crumble, broke apart. So I said, if I was getting married, I want to stay married for as long as I could, till death do us part. And so that's what I tried for, and because that's what I wanted. I wanted to stay married. I didn't want to just, be here for a short period of time. And that was my goal. And fortunately, that was my wife's goal, was to stay married. And so we worked out through thick and thin, because you will go through stuff in life. And if you're not willing to go through them, you can get stuck in them, and you're going to come out one way or the other. You're going to come out in the slop pen of life, where ain't nothing working out for you but a whole bunch of slop, or you're going to come out smelling like a rose. we said we're going to come out smelling like a rose.
Gotcha.
So we did what was necessary to be done. Not necessarily all those things were right or true or good or bad for each other. We just did the things that were in our best interest.
Gotcha. So if you had one piece of advice for a young man who's starting his life with, the person that they plan to spend their life, what would be a piece of advice to help him family together in an environment that creates as much happiness as possible?
Don't take things too serious. Don't take yourself too serious. Don't take your partner too serious. Don't take life too serious. See, to me, it's a happy thing. Like my wife, she's very serious, as you know. I'm like, okay, it's all right. We can roll with it. Because if you take it, if you take a hit, a punch, if you don't roll with the punch, it's going to tear all this off.
Yep.
If you roll with it, the blow is going to glance. So when life comes at you as a married man, young married man, you cannot let everything your wife say hit you and you don't move with it. You got to let it roll off.
Yep.
I tell folks, you got to have that duck mentality. Put that duck oil on you, so a lot of that stuff can roll off. Because a lot of the stuff that I take, she can't take. A lot of stuff I do, she can't do. She won't do. I know that women don't do what men do, but they want men to do that. I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's not me. So I'm not as sensitive as you are. I'm me. You sensitive, that's how we keep the family together. We have a hard and a soft. So we just, we're going to talk if we need to talk, we're going to roll when we need to roll, we're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and we're going to keep it moving. I'm not getting caught up in all your stuff. You're not getting caught up in mine because you want to take mine and make it yours. I'm not doing that.
That makes sense.
I know we're gonna make it till death do us part. But if we're gonna do that, we're gonna have to be loving each other, and we got to be compassionate to each other and respectful of each other.
Yes, sir.
If not, man, that's why a lot of marriages don't work. People take it too serious. It ain't all that serious. If you gone today or tomorrow, then what?
What was all that for?
Right. You done created all that heartache. Now you gone and I got the heartache. You gone, I got the pain.
That's not a real efficient way of living.
No. People die and then people want to jump in the grave with them. No. You stay there. You all right. We got good separation, baby. I remember when my great-grandmother, I don't know if this is supposed to be on the pod, when my great-grandmother died, I really loved my great-grandmother because she took care of me. I mean, took care of me. When my daddy left, she was there. She moved in the house with my mother and I. When I got sick, she stopped working and stayed home and took care of me. I said, man, this is, we went on the weekend. I was with my great-grandmother. Even though I was with my grandmother, because you hear a lot about my grandmother, it was my great-grandmother that took me back and forth.
Gotcha.
Back and forth. That's who was with me all the time. Between my mother and my grandmother, there was my great-grandmother, Julia Hollis. So she kept the glue together.
Got it. And that probably has a lot to do with the type of woman you're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Because that sounds a lot like my mother.
Yes.
If I were sick in college or whatever the case may be, she would be there. Whatever it is that, either me or my brother. So that's, it makes sense. It makes sense. I stated at the beginning of this conversation that I'm going to ask you a question twice. And so I'm asking you, who are you again? And I just want you to provide to the world who you are, your impact on this world, and what you would want the listeners to take with them.
Well, again, my name is David Warner. I'm a Christian, Baptist, if that makes a difference. A man who loved the Lord, who loved his family. And one of the things that I'm proud of are my sons, Jonathan and Jason and Jonathan. Because they are a reflection of who I am and what I've always wanted to become. I'm proud that they are doing what they're doing, they have who they have, and they're making the accomplishments they're making. That's one of the things I'm really proud about. And I don't have to work. So it's just like, it's almost like a threefer. You know, not a twofer, but a threefer. I got 2 accomplished sons, and I don't have to do what I used to do anymore.
There we go. Retired life.
Retired life.
That's good. That's good. You heard it here first, David Warner. Dad, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you taking this time. I appreciate you supporting this when you didn't even know what this is. And, you know, everything else that I do means a lot for you to be here, for this episode to exist and for the world to see it. And for me to just be able to sit back and reflect on this episode, show it to my kids one day, show it to my kids when, you know, they're my age and they don't have the opportunity to ask these questions to their grandfather. So I really appreciate it. And
I appreciate you having me. I appreciate being here and doing whatever necessary to be done.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dad.
Love you too.
Awesome. And
Shout out to Clarice Warner too.
There we go. Shout out to Clarice Warner. She probably will never make an episode because she's not getting in front of camera, but she's the glue that holds this all together.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Awesome.